my name is Gemma Lee and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be starting a new Danmei, which I've actually never read before. But I'm actually very excited to start it, especially since I heard it's kind of connected to Urha, which that's my favorite Danmei series so far. And the way it's connected, I heard it's like in the same universe and like centuries before the Urha volume. So I'm very, very excited to actually get to start it. And it's called Remnants of Filth by Meatbun, which is published by 7 Seas. I will say though, I do not know a single thing about it. Well, I mean, I know what is already in the summary, which, for those of you who are trying to not single thing about this while watching this, this is going to be just a bit of a spoiler to get a little bit of information of what happens in the book. So if you not want to hear it, try skipping this part because I'm going to mention what I remember from the summary is that these two used to be together like boyfriends, and but it was secret. One was a general who was known to be and they were best friends. Were they dated? I don't remember. I know it's something about being best friends, and I read the summary like a couple weeks ago, so my memory's a little there. But anyway, and then something happened to where one guy betrayed the other. We're not sure exactly why or what's his reason, and even the other guy that got betrayed, kind of confused. That's literally all I remember from the summary. But anyway, I am so excited to actually start it. I had a hard time deciding what volume to start that I haven't read because so right now I own Thousand Autumns and River Bay Road, Men's Dormitory, and I gotta look back real quick. Oh, okay. Guardian and Dinghai? I only remember one of the words in the title, but Dinghai I think it is. If I'm saying that wrong, I am sorry. Still practicing my pronunciations. I did check some pronunciations in this book from the characters on the back of the book. And if there are any trigger warnings, I will put them in the description, but I'm going like fully with no information. So if there are trigger warnings, I don't know what they are yet. And I'm gonna try to find, I wonder if there's a way I could put trigger warnings in the description without having to look at it. I want to be completely surprised and not know a single thing that's going on and finding out as I read. Anyway, I am talking so much. Let's get started. Get my book out. Okay. Okay. Prologue. Chonghua once produced two young and promising generals, as distinct as the Jing and the Wei as different as water from a flame. From flame, not a flame. Which Wei has a footnote. Footnote is a saying that originates from the visible contrast at the point where the clear Jing River flows into the muddy Wei River, often used to describe two parties that are sharply divided. Sorry, I'm rereading it again. Interesting. The one like water was named Moshi, a lifelong bachelor. He had an icy temperament and an aesthetic air. The army had a betting pool regarding when General Mo would sacrifice his chastity. They betting on? And it had long since grown into a fortune that could make any beggar rich overnight. Word. Moshi remained a cornerstone of Chonghua's strength. The one like fire was named Gumong. A perfect gentleman, he had a warm personality and smiled often. He had owed a sack of army wages for every girl he'd kissed, doubtless would have lost everything he owned ages ago, down to the clothes on his back. Later on, Gumong turned his back on Chonghua and became a commander for an enemy nation. Someone's so sweet. Before Gumong turned traitor, there was a day when he was suddenly possessed by a strange whim. Grabbing a little booklet filled with his own writing, he ran to ask Moshi to add a few words. General Mo's hands were full of military papers at the time, so he only asked General Gu, "What's in this?" Curious too. "All sorts of things," Gumong said cheerfully. "Good food, interesting experiences, travel notes, weapon catalogs, and the trifles of life." Moshi accepted the booklet, took up his brush, and dipped it in his ink to make his comment. "I also wrote about you," Gumong added with a smile. Oh, wait. Journal? Was I that slow and did not notice that? Oh, yeah, I was a little slow. It literally said in a paragraph, grabbing a little booklet filled with his own drawings. Moshi accepted the booklet, took up his brush, and dipped it in the ink to make his comment. "I also wrote about you," Gumong added with a smile. Moshi's hands filled as he looked up at Gumong. "What about me?" "I wrote a little about our past," Gumong earnestly replied. Moshi didn't say another word. After staring at Gumong for a bit, lowered those long lashes and expressionlessly inscribed two sharp and icy lines of formal script on the first page. "This book is forbidden. Transgressors will be punished." Really does not want anybody to see. Chapter 1. Stain, which is at the start of 13. Let me try that again. Which is at the start of page 13. It's gonna be a sad chapter. Now that we're actually starting the book. At dusk, a light flurry of snow began to fall on Chonghua's border, until it gradually blanketed the ground in a layer of pristine white. The wheels of lumbering carriages and the feet of passerby left uneven trails across the expanse. The meat pie seller, Maji, that's the first time I've heard that, shouted with all his might as his breath puffed out in a dense cloud. Meat pies, fresh out of the oven. Maybe maybe I sound stupid asking this, but what is meat pie? I feel like I've heard of it before, but I don't necessarily know what it is. I need to look it up. He changed the gong next to his oven as he peddled his goods. There's nothing thicker than the pies I bake, other than Gumong's face. Come here and get yours quickly. Oh. Wait, is this after then when... Is it Gumong that betrayed? I can't remember. Everyone who heard snickered to themselves. This pie stall had been in business far more than a decade, and a few years ago, Maji had sung a different tune indeed. Back then, he had crowded. Look here! General Gu's favorite pies. My dear customers, if you eat them, you'll be just as successful and invincible as General Gu. Guaranteed. A striking outfitted cavalry troop slowly made their way toward him through the swirling snow, headed by a youth who looked to be about 17, luxuriously dressed in brocades and furs. He was the picture of indolence, with his handsome and mischievous little face bundled beneath his thick fur collar. This young man was named Yu Chengqing, and he was the deputy general of the garrison troop. He was possessed of two profoundly formidable talents. First was being very agreeable. The ditty went, "What's the point of getting all mad? If I got sick, that would be real bad. No one's happy when I'm mad. It's such a pain and makes me sad." Does it do that? Yu Chengqing understood this concept to a T. He hardly ever lost his temper. He was the most good-natured young master of them all. Second talent was making himself comfortable, as comfortable as possible. He never stood if he could sit, nor sat up if he could lie flat. Yu Chengqing's favorite thing to say was, "I'll drink all the wine I've got tonight and mooch off my bros tomorrow." What an interesting character. He never deprived himself when it came to enjoying nice things, downed all his liquor the day he received it, and took women to bed without wasting time on talk. Huh. Also, I'm a little surprised that in this kind of novel that Meatbun used the word bros is my thing. Just think it's interesting. As for patrolling, he'd have his fun and then he'd patrol. He sounds very responsible. The frontier fortress at the northern pass had many markets like this, most of which sold things like animal hides, herbal medicines, beard stones, and slaves. I don't know why, but I kept thinking it would be salves. Slaves. To be fair, it was like saying animal hides and then medicines, beards. Felt like slaves would be better. Salves, I meant. You know what I meant. You know what I meant. Anyway, These places weren't terribly interesting, but compared to the bitter tedium of army life, they made for a decent way to pass time. I'll take that seven-tailed spirit cat. Go buy that guhyo Nile tail feather for me, too. The tumbleweed at that stall looks good. It'll definitely make effective medicine. Give me 10 baskets. As Yu Chengqing walked, he directed the retinue following him to purchase all sorts of goods. Although the members of the retinue felt uneasy seeing him shirk his responsibilities, they couldn't say much to a deputy general. Ah, well, I don't know. I don't know if I like this character. I mean, over the course of his walk, Yu Chengqing began to feel a little hungry, looked around for something to eat. He suddenly heard Wang Ermaji shouting in the distance, his raucous voice ringing through the snow. Meat pies for sale, meat pies as thick as Gumong's face. Come here and take a look. Upon hearing this sales pitch, a corner of Yu Chengqing's mouth twitched. This guy has the guts to use Gumong's own ends? Doesn't he know that Gumong is a taboo subject with our commander? Oh, she heard. We'd all be doomed. Yu Chengqing quickly led his horse forward and was about to scold the man when the strong, savory aroma of the meat pies hit him. Just as Yu Chengqing's reprimand reached the tip of his tongue, he swallowed it, along with the drool about to drip down his chin. You can close your mouth now. Stallkeeper Wang Ermaji looked up. Officer, a pastry for you? I'll have one, I guess. Alrighty. Wang Ermaji nimbly grabbed a golden brown pie from the oven with his tongs, stuffed it into an oiled paper bag, which he passed to the customer before him. Here you go. Careful not to burn yourself. You gotta eat these pies while they're hot. Yu Chengqing accepted the piping hot pie and took a crackling bite. Scalding juice flowed out from the crispy golden brown pastry. Flavors of wheat dough, ground meat, crushed peppercorn blossomed on his tongue. That actually sounds good. I want to try that. Smoky scents filled the air in an instant, and he swallowed hungrily. Tastes as good as it smells. Yu Chengqing couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Doesn't it? Everyone knows my pastries are the best, Wang Ermaji bragged in delight. No matter how famous Gumong got way back then. He always came to my stall and ate a batch as soon as he returned to the city after a battle. He kind of uses Gumong a lot. Does he miss him? I mean, I know he was kind of making fun of him earlier, but I wonder. Once he was done boasting, he made sure to add indignantly, but if I'd known that Gu asshole would turn out to be a two-faced traitor, I'd have put some poison in those pies and nipped that in the bud for the good of all the people. I will say, for such a taboo subject, this guy really isn't very careful about how he talks about it. Be careful with that kind of talk, Yu Chengqing said as he chewed. Also, you better change up that slogan of yours. Wang Ermaji's eyes widened. Why's that, officer? Doesn't matter. Just be good and listen to what this officer says. Yu Chengqing took another huge bite of the meat pie, his cheeks bulging. We'll be going to war with the Lao Kingdom soon, and I'm afraid our troops will be stationed here for a good long time. Watch out. Keep shouting that gumong all day, he snickered. Might end up jabbing a certain dignitary right where it hurts. Dignitary, who Cheng Ching spoke of, was, of course, the commander, Moshi. Moshi, granted the title Jihe Jun by the late emperor, had been born in the prestigious Mo clan. This clan had produced 4 such generals, including both of Moshi's grandfathers and his father. Having come from such a remarkable lineage, Moshi's innate spiritual power was, of course, extremely potent. And after studying under the cultivation academy's most severe elders, he attained the highest rank of general and commanded hundreds of thousands of soldiers. And he was mere 27 years old. Due to his family circumstances, Moshi's temperament was as cold and sharp as a knife's edge. He was ever decisive and determined. Guessing his temperament's probably gotten a lot worse after getting betrayed. His father had often warned him, overindulgence will blunt your blades, so do your work and ignore the maids. A lot of rhyming in the beginning of this book, all these sayings. Thus, Moshi was audaciously ascetic and self-disciplined, wholly free from corruption. One could have said that he'd lived 27 years without ever making a single major mistake. This kind of mindset. Except for Gumong. Moshi, Gumong was like ink on paper or mud in snow. The suggestive smear of blood left upon the pristine white of a gentleman's bedsheets. He was the stain on Moshi's life. Well, now I understand why the title's called Stain. After nightfall, a clarion melody pierced the skies in the barracks of the frontier fortress. The opera singer's voice was languid and slow as it drifted ghost-like across the frost. Rain falls over... Sorry, let me repeat that. Rain falls soft over Yuchi Pavilion. Sun shines down on Jinni Hall. Let wine and music flow for all. Mean although their lives may seem, matters of ants are not so small. Not gonna lie though, I'm kind of enjoying all these rhyming aspects in the book right now. Very different from Urha. Or was this in the book? I don't remember this having scenes like... Was there? And I'm just really forgetting and having a bad memory. The soldiers guarding the deputy general's tent looked left and right, the very image of a startled quail. At the sight of a tall, black-clothed silhouette approaching, he couldn't help but pale and lift the tent flap in panic. "Uh-oh, bad news," he cried. That was probably not the tone of how he said it, the way I said it. "What's up?" Inside the tent, Yu Chengqing yawned atop the general's seat of honor and opened his eyes, propping his chin on his hand. Look at the time. Deputy General, you should hurry and go on patrol. Stop watching this show." "What's the rush?" Yu Chengqing said lazily. "There'll be plenty of time after I'm done." Then he turned to the performers in the tent. "Just stand there. Keep singing." Okay. The music floated up into the clouds, the singer's voice like a faint silken robin. What is happening? my pronunciation of these words. Anyway, the music floated up into the clouds, the singer's voice like a faint, silken ribbon drawn out high and long. In the shade will a kingdom rise, a lifetime's work etched in his eyes. Jishuan's teachings only partly gleaned. When will the east wind wake me from this dream? 32 chapters in. Well, sort of 2 chapters in. Because it's just the prologue in chapter. And we already got like 4 rhyming sentences. Which, that, what the singer was singing actually has a footnote. From A Tale of Nanke, an opera by Tang Xianzhu. If I said that right? Then glad if I didn't. But please let me know how I'm supposed to actually say it. I'm having trouble trying to find pronunciation guides. Maybe I'm not looking hard. I don't know. My dear Deputy General Yu. My good Deputy General. Please stop their singing, the personal guard said anxiously. What on earth is all this? Life is brutish and short, but we should find our joys where we can. Yu Chengqing happily chewed on his fingernail. Otherwise, our days would be sorely lacking in spice. But if Jihejun sees a display like this, he'll get angry again. Jihejun isn't here, so what are you worried about? Chengqing chuckled. Besides, Jijun stalks around looking dour all day long. He doesn't put any effort into cheering himself up. He's a grown man, but still throws a fit if he hears me tell a dirty joke. How exhausting would it be to try to make him happy? Deputy General, guard seemed close to tears. Lower your voice. Why? Because the guard's gaze flitted toward the gap in the tent flap. Oh. Because, he stammered. Yu Chengqing sprawled out on the general's seat and even plopped Jihejun's silver fur coat on his head. Did Jihejun spook you guys? He laughed. Why are you stuttering as soon as you say his name? Yu Chengqing sighed. Then again, Jihejun sure is something. Oof. You know, I have a feeling that, Jihejun, whoever this guy is, and I'm guessing Guoshi, is probably hearing this. And that he might really want to stop talking. He's the one who wants to live like a monk, but he makes us all suffer in boredom alongside him. Look, in our whole company, there's not even a single female dog. This was true. In all of Chonghua's military, the branch under Jihejun had it hardest. Although the troops under his command didn't lack for food or clothing, the man himself was boring and strict. Just as Yu Chengqing said, it would have been fine if Jihejun merely insisted on personally avoiding carnival. But he forbade his subordinates from taking out fun. Well. Although I'm not surprised from how they described him earlier. Yu Chengqing clearly found the situation hilarious. Held back his laughter to sigh with a holy business. Got everything going for him, except for the fact that he's way too controlling. Look, he's an obsessive clean freak overthinker with no hobbies or interests to speak of. What a waste of that handsome face. I feel like he should shut up now. Like, I'm not kidding. I think he might want to shut up now. I don't know. This kind of gives me the vibe that Jihye-jun, that Jihye-jun's gonna be right behind. I'm not completely sure, but that's the feeling I'm actually putting me on edge. It's gonna give me secondhand embarrassment if he. The guard looked like he was watching a disaster unfold before his eyes. Master Yu, stop talking, blurted out. But Yu Chengqing didn't stop. In fact, he became even more excited. Oh, what else is he gonna say? Do you feel pent up? You're about to burst. Interesting question. Huh. Tonight, let's have the brothers go have all the fun they like. Oh, I don't know why. I thought maybe it was sounding wrong on, like, obviously on purpose, because the writer chose to write it this way, but I thought I should have put 2 and 2 together when he was saying that Moshi, whatever the guy's name is, was telling, he was saying that he didn't want them to, like, he forbade them to going out with girls. And then he said that, I don't know why, but I took that as when he was saying, do you feel pent up? That, like, they were pent up with anger towards him? But no, I was wrong, and also, sorry for me messing up on my words. Jesus. While he's away, I'm gonna take the chance to cut you some slack. Tonight, let's have the brothers go have all the fun they like. We'll open the gates and host a beauty contest by the bonfire. I want to crown the prettiest girl in the nearby villages. You want to crown who? This is probably not gonna go well. Man's low voice cut through from outside. The tent flap lifted with a swish. A tall man walked in, clad in silver armor that flashed like the forest. No, sorry, like frost. I don't know where I got forest from. Man's love had that uniform was proper and neat over his wide shoulders, slender waist. His long legs were wrapped in military boots of black leather. Refined, elegant features made an incredible impression as he looked up with icy, sharp eyes. This was none other than Jihye-jun, whom Yu Chengqing had been having fun mocking. Moshi. I was right, but I feel like it was pretty obvious, so... But I'm still happy I was right. And I was right that it was Moshi, which was also probably obvious, but, like, I'm a little slow sometimes, so... Why had Moshi come back now? At first, Yu Chengqing was struck dumb. Guessing all that confidence is gonna go. When he came back to his senses, he shuddered, bundling himself up tighter in the furs. General Mo. Deputy General Yu put on a show of being pitiful. Why didn't you tell us you'd be coming back early? This was due to Moshi, who, finding his whining unbearably disgusting, chose to summon a sword of spiritual energy and fling it a hair's breadth from Yu Chengqing's cheek. Told you should have shut up. Ooh. Oh, I like the art. Ooh. I couldn't even tell there was art on the next page. I was wondering when we'd get art. Looks very similar to the art style in Urha. Having narrowly avoided decapitation, Wu Chengqing scrambled up from the general's seat. Jiajun, how come you're so violent? Demanded, pushing his hair out of his face. You're questioning me before I've had the chance to question you? Tell me, why are there women among my troops? Moshi shot a glance at the petrified songstress before turning back to stare at Yu Chengqing. You brought them here? Yu Chengqing initially wanted to keep complaining, but he quailed the instant he met Moshi's eyes. Don't be like that. I was only listening to a song, okay? A famous song from Lichun. Does Shi-hye-jun want to hear it too? Moshi's expression was cold and annoyed. Scene music. It's usually drag them out. Thankfully, he didn't end that sentence with and have them beheaded. Yu Chengqing went back to whining as he curled up atop the general's seat, the picture of misery. So cold-blooded and heartless. I'm going to tell my dad you were mean to me. Oh my god. He sounds like a child. I mean, obviously with how he doesn't seem to care about his responsibilities as much as having fun and all, but like, I can't believe he actually said that. God. I'm going to tell my dad on you. Moshi glanced at him. You can also get out. Yu Chengqing was struck speechless. You could tell he was raised as a spoiled child. Spoiled brat. After Yu Chengqing left in sulky silence, Moshi sat down alone in the tent. Stripping off his black dragon skin gloves, pressed pale, slender fingers to his temple and slowly closed his eyes. In the lamplight, he looked almost ill, his complexion sickly and pallid, that paired with the restraint, ruthlessness that always lingered in his eyes, made him look even more worn down. He looked as if many things weighed on. I bet. Also, going back to Yu Chengqing. How the heck did he get the general position? Because his character, what was it, what's the word? The word that usually people call, celebrities usually already have merit in the industry before they joined. Oh, I gotta look that up. I'll look that up. Oh, I get it. Like a nepo baby, right? Kind of like that. I don't. Would that be the right word for this? Considering it, something similar to that. Obviously, I think that word only refers to celebrities. But then again, I'm not sure. But whatever the word is for this situation, is that basically how he got his job? Or did it tell me already and I'm just an idiot right now? Anyway. Not long ago, he had received a secret letter from Chonghua's imperial capital of urgent importance. Massive personality. Oh my god. My pronunciation today. I thought I was doing so well too. So well. And I'm messing up a bunch right now. Not long ago, he received a secret letter from Chonghua's imperial capital of urgent importance. Missive personally written by the current Emperor Chonghua and affixed with a blood seal that only Moshi could open. After this letter was delivered, Moshi had to read it 3 times over to be sure he hadn't misunderstood. Wonder how this is gonna. I'm actually very, very. It's gonna go. Think it's gonna go well? Oh no, not me. Not. What about you guys? Even now, the letter was tucked away in Moshi's coat, warmed by the heat of his chest, pressed where his heart beat strong and steady. Guqin was returning to Changhua. This news was like a thorny bramble caught in his ribs and filled with a prickling pain. Not taking the news well. Understandably so. Moshi furrowed his brow, striving to suppress his black mood, but in the end, that burning rage still poured out. His eyes snapped open as a long, leather-clad leg kicked out and overturned the table in front of him with a loud crash. "Aya! General Mo!" The guard keeping watch outside the tent leaned in through the flap, uneasy with fear. "Please calm yourself. It's only natural to play around at young Master Yu's age. It's this subordinate who failed to appropriately handle the matter and neglected to stop young Master Yu from listening to that opera. If you want to punish or blame anyone, you only need say so. But by all means, don't make yourself sick." Moshi whipped around in the dim light, and his eyes were like sparking flame. "Get out." Silence. "No one is allowed inside without my express permission." "Yes, sir." The tent flap lowered again, leaving a terrifying stillness on either side. The only sounds were the wail of the northern winter's wind, the movements of soldiers in the distance, soft crunch of snow beneath military boots, and the whinnying of the war horses in the spirit beast encampment. I really wanted to say enchantment. Moshi turned his head to stare down at the mulberries rolling across the floor. It was as if those berries were the heads that Guqin had personally plucked off these past few years. He wondered how this person, who had committed so many cruel, wicked, and vile acts, who had betrayed his country, comrades, and friends, who had earned an evil reputation, blood debts, and deep hatred, could have the courage to return. How could Guqin have the nerve to return? Moshi collected himself, only after making a great effort to calm his mind. Did he take out the letter and worn ragged from repeated reading the Emperor had written in his upright, elegant hand? Okay, before I read the letter, I kind of thought maybe how Guqin returned was that he was captured, considering what he did in the past. But he's willingly? I don't know. I just thought that that's probably how it would go, but I guess not. Anyway, back to the letter. The Lao Kingdom wishes to declare an armistice. To demonstrate their sincerity, they will escort the traitorous General Guqin back to the capital. Guqin is of our Changhua and once enjoyed our trust. Instead of repaying that trust with loyalty, he turned traitor for his own gain. For the past 5 years, he has plundered his mother country, ravaged the peace of his native land, slaughtered his former comrades, and forsaken his past friends. Such crimes cannot be pardoned. In 10 days, Guqin will return to the city in shame. But the need for vengeance so widespread, cannot make a decision alone and urgently write to each noble lord for comment. General Mo, Although you are guarding the nation from afar, you are a trusted aid of ours. Therefore, your timely advisement is sincerely requested. With regards. So, did Gumong turn himself in? Moshi stared at the secret missive for a long time and burst out into mocking laughter. Traces of bitter pain and deep hatred gradually appeared on his face. Should he be killed or kept alive for some other use? At this point, Moshi didn't want to care anymore. He and Gumong had their fights and their grudges. They talked of their dreams and shared wine from the same bottle. Over the course of being acquainted for more than 10 years, the days of their youth to the unfathomable changes later on, they'd withered countless hardships together. Gumong had been his companion, his rival, his shishong, his comrade in arms, and in the end, Gumong became an enemy who was meant to slaughter. Their relationship had been doomed to fragility since the beginning. After Gumong turned traitor, Moshi broke off with him completely, turning his back without hesitation on years of friendship. Nowadays, when people spoke of them, they all probably said something like General Mo and Gumong. They're as incompatible as heaven and earth, water and fire, a saint and a savage. Even love rivals get angry at the sight of the other, let alone those two fighting on opposite sides of war. They're sure to be at each other's throats for the rest of their lives. Deeply distraught, Moshi refused to think on this matter any farther. Taking up the brush, he held it poised above the paper. Halfway through the word execute, his hand shook. Ink soaked through the paper. Faint sound of a clay chun started up outside the tent. Some little brat must have been feeling homesick. Filled the entire encampment with melancholy yearning as a pale frost dusted the grounds. Moshi fell into a momentary daze, his black eyes flashing with an unreadable light. In the end, he cursed softly and flung down a brush to grab the secret missive. Flame burst from his palm, reducing the letter instantly to ash. As the ashes danced in the air, Moshi exhaled, forming them into a messenger butterfly that could travel 1,000 miles. This subject once protected and recommended Gumong, and thus must bear blame for his treason. As for the trial, this subject should avoid suspicion as abstain from comment, continued in a measured tone. Moshi of the Northern Frontier Army, which is Your Imperial Majesty, well. I feel like he just couldn't, even though there was betrayal and he's hurt deeply and all, I don't think he could let himself decide that Gumong should be executed. It's kind of sad. We'll learn all of this, hopefully, of what's actually fully going on, because I'm genuinely curious of what happened and why this betrayal happened, or is it actually a betrayal and someone made up a story for him to look like he got betrayed by him? I don't know. We'll find this out, hopefully. There are 8 volumes, so. Anyway. He lifted his hand, and the spiritual butterfly swiftly flew off. He gazed in the direction in which it had disappeared, thinking to himself that with this, his decade-long entanglement with Gumong was finally settled. I don't think that's how it works. Okay. Gumong had murdered so many Changhua soldiers and broken the hearts of Changhua's people. Now that he had outlived his use, the enemy kingdom was sending him back. Whoa. The officials of the court would, of course, rush to take revenge. Obviously, different situation. Completely different. But it kind of reminds me of Sword of Ballad of Sword and Wine. Sort of. You know that story, maybe you understand what I mean. Otherwise, go try out that book. But anyway, back to this story. But Moshi had to stay at the frontier for another 2 years. It appeared that he wouldn't be able to watch Gumong's execution. I mean, would you want to watch that though? I mean, you couldn't even put execution or what you want to happen to him. Or your comment of what should happen to him. Enemies, nemesis, adversaries. There were the final conclusions. Others would come one day draw from their relationship. His face devoid of expression. Moshi thought perhaps no one else would ever know that he and Gumong, who appeared to be incompatible, irreconcilable enemies, had in fact slept with each other. He admitted it. Perhaps no one would believe it, even if he said it out loud. Their ascetic and disciplined General Mo had once pinned Gumong to the bed and taken him to sleep. I mean, I should have expected her to give a detail like this in the book. I expected her to give this detail in the... I'm messing up on my words. I should have expected her to, like, talk a little bit about how it was between them, slept together past, considering how she talks about it in her ha. Still took me a little bit off guard, though. Like, since we're kind of, like, the beginning. But, yeah, should have expected it. This immaculate saint had lost control on top of Gumong, sweat dripping down his chest as desire inflamed his eyes. As for the fearsome warrior Gumong, who seemed to have been born from the fires of war, Gumong had been fucked to tears in Shihei-jun's bed, parted his soft lips in a plea for Shihei-jun's kiss, and allowed Moshi to leave smudge marks across his rugged and muscular body. They were enemies, separated by a chasm of accumulated hatred only death could resolve. But before this had come to pass, before they had parted ways, these two youths had once been passionately entangled, till love became one with desire, till they were loath to part. And that's the end of chapter 1. Which now we're on 27. And we'll be starting at chapter 2, Gumong bears it all, after a short break. Just a 10-minute break. I just want to stop, take a break, stretch a bit, and get a drink. You guys should totally take a break as well. Make sure you also stretch and get a drink. I don't know about you, but my back is kind of hurting from sitting straight like this. I don't have like something to back on. So, yeah. See you after the break. You enjoyed the reading so far. welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your break and was able to get a drink and move around. I sure definitely needed that. At my factory job, I'm usually standing. Well, that's literally what I do. Stand in one place mainly, and it kind of like, I'm usually standing up straight, so it kind of affects my lower back, or maybe it's the way I'm standing with my legs. I don't know. But usually I can tell that my back, kind of like lower back anyway, kind of starts hurting. And so when I was like sitting here straight, it's kind of like I needed to lay down and move around or whatever. But anyway, I will say I am actually kind of enjoying the story. It makes me curious, and I have a lot of questions on what is going on and all. I'm already intrigued so far. I do kind of find that Yu Chenqing, which, if I remember correctly, is the guy that was talking behind Moshe's back, I kind of find him a little funny. And not in the way that, like, I don't... It's more like how he acts. Although if I met someone like that in person, it'd be very insufferable to me. But yeah, he's an interesting character. That's for sure. I will just say that. Anyway, are you excited to go back into the book? From where we left off, we're at the beginning of page 27. Oh, look. And yes, I know the book that I'm holding doesn't fit the vibe of the book we are reading, but I will say I do think the book looks cute, and it kind of goes with my character, my VTuber. But anyway, at the beginning of page 27, chapter 2, Gumong bears it all. Hold on, I'm gonna adjust my mic just a bit. There we go. Actually. Okay. Not long after Moshe received the secret missive from the capital, the Emperor of Changhua finally announced the news of Gumong's return, along with how he would be punished. Wangshu Jun would be granted complete control over him. Who's Wangshu Jun again? I'm gonna have to start memorizing these characters. I feel like he was already mentioned, and I just completely forgot about him. The news spread like wildfire across all of Changhua. Although Moshe's army was stationed all the way on the northern frontier, they nevertheless found out a mere 3 days later. The northern frontier army exploded. On the surface, they were as solemn and calm as ever, but during break between patrols, almost everyone started weighing in. Moshe saw it all, and for once, he didn't stop them. He thought it perfectly normal that these soldiers would feel dissatisfied. After all, the Northern Frontier Army had once been the invincible army of Gu. A healthy majority of the soldiers had once risked their lives alongside Gumong. Their feelings about him were extremely complicated. Though their loyalties remained unquestioned, they had once wholeheartedly sworn allegiance to their commander Gumong, even though the same Gumong had once dubbed them the Wangba army. Seriously, that wasn't a joke. Wangba as in tortoise and Wangba as in bastard. The bastard army. What a lovely name to call your group of troops. Before Moshi took over, this army's roster had read like this. Liu Dazhuang, soldier of the Wangba army. Bastard. Zhang Dayan, squad leader of the bastard army. It didn't say that. It said the Wangba army. Anyway, ... and so on and so forth. Bastards all the way down the line. First on the list had been Gumong, commander of the Wangba army. Logically speaking, no one would want to enlist in an army with such a vulgar name, but the concern hadn't borne out. At the time, Gumong had been the most illustrious general of Chong. Most of the well-known generals were constrained by their own challenges, obligations, or pretensions. But Gumong was different. He was slave-born. He had no father or mother, no worries or cares, no ego to lose, nor any fear of death. If all the Chonghua's noble young masters took off their clothes and stood in a row, Gumong might not have been the most muscular, but he definitely would have had the most scars. He had fully deserved the title of Chonghua's beast of the altar. In those days, Gumong's deputy had always reprimanded him at the sight of his wounds. You're the commander. Why do you always run to the front? Don't you know how to dodge? Gumong would smile. His dark eyes were very bright, and his lips looked very soft. Interesting description to put there of his lips. Just saying. His voice was naturally smooth as silk as he cheerfully mollified his angry friend. My legs are too long. I have no choice but to run fast. No choice at all. His very presence seemed to bring laughter and sweetness to the battlefield, as though such places could be more than freezing cold and crimson blood. He remembered every one of his comrades' birthdays. Between battles, he often took the cultivators from his camp to make merry and drink wine in some little village. Sometimes they'd be met with crafty villagers who charged sky-high prices. But General Gu never got angry. He merely laughed and tossed all his money on the table in order to buy his soldiers wine and meat. Nice guy. Really want to know what happens. I'm being a little impatient. Anyway, in the end, he'd yell, "Eat up, drink up. You better all stuff your faces and eat your fill. You're my precious darlings. If there's not enough money, I'll pay in other ways." Interesting words to choose. Gumong was a man of his word. He traded fur coat for wine and spirit jades for meat. Once even took off all his military robes and armor and tossed them on the bar in exchange for Hong rice wine, which has a footnote. A rice wine named after a tradition where wine brewed at a daughter's birth is left to age until her wedding and tasted as part of her dowry. Very, very expensive. At which point, the army thugs started singing and heckling him. "General Gu, we want beef too. Do you have anything else you could take off?" By the... Is he stripping? Oh, okay. Yeah, he was taking off his, whatever spirit jades are, again, and fur coat. But by then, he'd already stripped down to a single snow-white robe, but he still laughed and pointed at them. Just you wait. Oh. Is he gonna take off his robe? The only clothing he has to cover his body? No way. General Gu, you wouldn't really take off your underwear too. That can't be worth very much. I don't know. There's some creepy people in the real world. I'm sure somebody would like that. Gumong didn't plan to take off his underwear, thank God. But it was true that he didn't have anything left. He bit his lip and thought. And before everyone's amused and shocked expression, he scooched up to the pretty, widowed proprietress and planted a kiss on her cheek. The soldiers all stopped talking and stared. Even the widow was stunned, speechless. Drops of wine plinking off her ladle. It took her a moment to snap back to her senses and started chasing after Gumong, ladle held aloft. Shameless, you awful flirt! Everyone roared with laughter. Is he paying them back for a kiss? With a kiss. Amid the high, slapping, and sympathetic wincing, the widow chased Gumong around the entire room. I'm serious, I'm serious! Gumong cried, begging for mercy as he ran. You're beautiful, you're beautiful! I know I'm beautiful. You're not bad looking either, young man, but you're way too fucking shameless. Couldn't you sneak out here alone and kiss me at night? Okay. Why'd you have to do it in front of many people, pervert? This pervert ran about in utter chaos. Yet he made sure to shamelessly shout, Yes, 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 I'll come over tomorrow night. Or I could stay here tonight, as long as you give us another 2 caddies of beef. Please, dear miss. Pah! You've already asked me for beef on credit 3 times since you've been stationed here, and this is the 4th. Every single time you say you'll come over tomorrow night. Do you think I'm gonna fall for your tricks? The widow yelled back, her little fist punching the wooden bar so hard it cracked. The army ruffians were laughing so hard they were about to fall over. No matter how indignantly the widow spoke, in the end, Gumong was still able to use his pretty face and the promise of coming over tomorrow to secure another 2 caddies of marinated beef for his brothers. General Gu, you sure know how to win people over. Of course I do, Gumong said smugly, grinning with delight. I've gone through thousands of beautiful flowers. Everyone knows of my exploits. With a commander like that, it was no wonder a youth in those days grandly declared, Who cares if they're called the Wangba army? Even if they were the Jiba army, I'd enlist in the cock army for the General Gu. Which, there's a footnote. Jiba means cock, which sounds similar to Jiba, cease battle. What is with these names, with these armies? God, it reminds me and this is a spoiler for Urha, so skip. In the beginning of Volume 1, when Taishun was naming the eras with, like, cock, with the word cock, but, like, he used a word that also had another meaning. I kind of forgot, but it's reminding me of that. His friend standing next to him turned up his nose. Aya, you read your classics in vain, I see. How vulgar. How would you make it elegant? If you're going to win with the Jiba army, why not call it the Jiba army? Jiba as in cease battle. What a good name, the youth exclaimed in admiration. I like it. No way. I just made that up. Who would like a name like Jiba? Wouldn't you find it embarrassing? Go ahead and try it if you don't believe me. Even a dog would get mad at you for calling it that. The youth laughed. Never say never. Just because something doesn't exist now, doesn't mean it won't in the future. If even an imperial army can be named Wangba, I don't think it's impossible that something else might be called Jiba in the future. Fortunately, Gumong didn't hear this discussion. Otherwise, he might have slapped the table with a triumphant yell and changed his title to Gumong, commander of the Jiba army, thereby making all his subordinates suffer alongside him. The more I get to know about this Gumong character, the more he's making me laugh. From what I'm hearing in the beginning of Gumong's character, is give me a different contrast. I imagined him a bit different in my head from what I was hearing about his betrayal and stuff. Compared to now, how we actually get to see some of his character, completely different in my head of how I imagined how he was going to be. But I like that because sort of like surprise, it's not like predictable, I guess. That I don't know. Amid the cruelty of war, only a little madman like Gumong would be inspired to joke around. In addition to clubbing his troops, the Wangba army, he also personally crafted their flag, creatively cutting a tortoise out of a jade green banner, complete with a very realistic little tail. He cast a spell on the flag, and with every incense time that passed, the tortoise roared, "Wangba, Wangba, Chonghua's pride, a mighty name known far and wide." That like the 5th rhyme now for today. Loving it. In short, it was extremely embarrassing. The first time Gumong rode out to battle with his flag, the enemy general nearly laughed himself into an early grave. Nevertheless, before the day was out, Gumong's Wangba army had reduced the 100,000-strong opposing army to a sobbing mess. Sorry about that. Anyway, Gumong fought many more battles after that one, both large and small, and came away victorious every time. As a result, during the years that Gumong was a general, the enemies of Chonghua would pale at the glimpse of the tortoise tail. The sight they dreaded most was, perhaps, that of a little tortoise flag raised up over the smoke of the battlefield, as General Gu rode out, cleared his throat, and introduced himself with absolute seriousness. "This humble one is Gumong, General of the Wangba Army. I'm here to learn from your honorable selves." Failing to defeat this young cultivator was shameful enough. Even worse was having to snivel through one's report to one's emperor. Wah, this subordinate is truly incompetent and failed to defeat the Wangba army. I feel like I could have said that in a better tone. Also, I'm curious, am I reading too fast, too slow? I feel like sometimes I do read a little too fast. And sometimes a little too slow, but mostly too fast. I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. Anyway, it was the stuff of nightmares. As for Chonghua's soldiers, although Gumong was outrageous and mischievous, his charisma was unsurpassed. Many people revered him in those days, and some even took his nonsense "shitty names keep you safe" mantra as gospel. Oh, yeah, that would actually work, wouldn't it? Since if you have like a weird name, people won't take you as seriously. I didn't think of that. That's kind of smart. In accordance with the trend, many babies born during that time had the misfortune of being given shitty names. Ooh. Chu, strong root. Genjong. Chu, iron pillar. Teishu, Jiang, aching balls. Dantong. Oh, I feel bad for those children. When Moshe took over the Wangba army, the first thing he did was change its ridiculous name. He would never allow for his entry on the military roster to become Moshe, General of the Wangba army. Absolutely not. And so the Wangba army was renamed the Northern Frontier Army and assigned to Moshe's command. The dark humor that had stood up to spilled blood and the smoke of war crumbled away, much like Gumong's glorious reputation. Those little tortoises that had shouted and yelled, Wangba, Wangba, Chunghua's pride, a mighty name known far and wide. 6 now, by the way. Were like an absurd, fleeting joke. They were never seen on the vast battlefields again. The army's existence became a solemn one. There were no more flowers or nectar, no one who would strive to memorize any of the lowly soldiers' names, no one to take the men out to make merry, no one to buy them cheap wine with clothes off his back. Battle regained its absolute and pitiless severity. An eternal winter had arrived. I'm just saying, from what I'm getting from these character descriptions of him, and this is probably just me, like, trying to think of a positive outlook, although, I don't know if you'd say positive, but me trying to think good of this character, because I know he's, like, one of the main characters, I think. I don't know if we get to see his point of view, but considering how it was in Urha, I kind of feel like we do. But like I said, this is probably just me hoping that, maybe he had no choice but to betray them. Maybe he did it for Moshi. Maybe he did it for his people. Or maybe he didn't betray them and someone is making it seem like he did. I don't know, this is just me hoping that, like, since he's the main character, that he didn't actually betray them. And there's a reason for why all this happened. That's just my guess, but anyway. Although most of the Northern Frontier Army hated Gumong nowadays, perhaps that past was the reason they couldn't feel quite the same way ordinary civilians did when they spoke of him. Understandable? This was especially true of those old soldiers who fought in the Wangba army with General Gu. Every time they said his name, a hint of something unreadable rose in their eyes. Ah, I really didn't expect him to end up like this. Everyone knows of Wang Shujun's cruelty. I'm afraid it's an awful sign that His Imperial Majesty is letting Wang Shujun deal with him. He'll definitely die a horrible death. A man of ambition wasn't necessarily disliked, but a traitor was certain to be universally reviled. Only that when these veterans of the Wangba army gathered did they murmur about things that had nothing to do with hatred. As the night wore on, some of the ones who were getting on in years finally lost all enthusiasm. Ah, what a good man he was. If only certain things hadn't gone the way they had, then he wouldn't have... Shh! Be quiet. The nerve to mention such things. Do you want to die? The old soldier shook himself out of his reverie with a yelp as he realized what he nearly let slip. The drunken sparkle in his eyes vanished, and he couldn't help but shudder. The other soldier continued chiding him. Now we're working under General Mo, and Gumong is the person he hates most in the world. It's not as if you don't know his temper. We heard you. None of us would live to see morning. Ah, you're right. Silly me. I'm confused as soon as I start drinking. The soldiers sitting around the fire pit fell silent and stared blankly into the flames, each of them lost in their own thoughts. After a long time, someone else sighed and said, "But everyone changes, I suppose. All we can say is that this is General Gu's fate." How many years has it been? Why are you still calling him General Gu? Oh, right, I meant Gumong. It was a still night at the frontier fortress. The bonfire crackled, bursting with a stream of golden sparks, more dazzling than the stars. The tipsy old soldier lay on the ground with his head pillowed on his arms. He gazed at the starry sky and twinkling YUWU star, which has a footnote. The YUWU star, or Polaris, as it's known in Western astronomy, is considered the celestial equivalent of the Emperor. I feel like I pronounced that really badly, and I apologize for that. The jet of his throat bulbing as he muttered a few words no one else could hear. To be honest, it was only because of Gumong that I enlisted. I once even drank with him around a fire. He didn't put on any airs either. Back then, as I watched him laugh, I thought, one day I could die for him in battle. It would be a good way to go. I would have known he would end up. Hey, this guy. He needs to. Oof. Not listening to the warning. Meeting such a fate. Gone are the birds and discarded lies the below. Which that saying actually has a footnote as well. A line from record of the grand historian, Land of Guqin, King of YUWU by Sima Qian, refers to the desolate fates of those who have outlasted their use. After making use of Gumong, an enemy nation was offering him as part of a gift of peace and giving him back to Chonghua. This man had lived through many turns of fortune and seen much of the world's beauty, but a single wrong move had left him a traitor. What was done was done. There was no going back. Was this what it meant to reap what you sow? To be the architect of your own destruction? Returning to the topic at hand, although Gumong had come into a cruel fate, he had only himself to blame. It satisfied the people to see him unwanted by either side. For a while, almost everyone in Chonghua eagerly awaited Gumong's end. Whether he was to be beheaded, given death by 1,000 cuts, boiled alive, hacked to pieces, or drawn and quartered, even a little girl who had just learned to speak could lisp sycophantically after the adults. We can't go easy on the disgraceful. We can't go easy on the disgraceful pighead. Thus, Gumong, General Gu, Chonghua's former heroic commander, Moshi's archenemy, the legendary man who had once been praised as the beast of the altar, had so pathetically become a disgraceful pighead. I didn't expect to speak in that kind of way. Ooh. Okay. Well, that was a great ending to the chapter 2. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm more laughing at the way I said it, how I sounded to myself. Disgraceful pighead. It's not even that funny. I don't know why I'm laughing about it that much. It kind of, I think more or less because of the way I said it, it's reminding me of, you know, Looney Tunes? The pig? It's reminding me of how he talks, basically. And I think that's why I'm laughing so hard about it. Anyway, that was the end of chapter 2. We're on page 37. Chapter 3, Old Hatred. Wondering when Gumong, shows up. I'm kind of excited for his character to actually show up and we get to, see him. And I wonder if we actually get to start going in his perspective of things. And get to kind of, see his feelings and all. Because I'm genuinely curious. Really, really curious now. With the amount that we've talked about his character now. Okay. Starting at the page. In the blink of an eye, the Northern Frontier Army had spent 2 years guarding the border. 100,000 troops set up camp for the night by the Fushui River. After one more long day of travel, they would return home in glory. The soldiers cooked their meals, fed their horses, and washed their clothes as a rosy sunset glimmered over the river's surface. The light shone down on the spirit beasts lying down by the river, the men bathing in the shallows. Yo, let me scrub my back. We got bro and yo in this book now. They really used these kind of words back then? I mean, obviously this is book, and most of what happens in this book would not happen in real life. Like magic, I mean. But it's kind of funny reading it in this kind of setting. We'll be going home tomorrow, and if I showed up covered in mud, my mom's gonna curse me right to death. Yeah, you gotta help me shave later. I can't get it right on my own. Vain, stinky brat. 3 years of marching, and I've never seen you care about your looks. Be honest. Are you in a rush to go home and see that girl of yours? The group was chattering happily in the shallow waters, heckling each other as they tidied their appearances, their eyes filled with an unstoppable sweetness. Clad in robes from their mother's hands, the subject of these yearning dreams, its faraway sons were returning home. Yearning Dreams actually has a footnote. From the Tang Dynasty poems, Song of the Faraway Sun by Meng Jiao and 4 Songs of Longxi, the second by Chen Tao. I'm loving how these soldiers talk to each other. It's hilarious. They would carry out their duties as they ought to, whether it was honoring their parents or marrying a wife. All of them had futures to look forward to. Moshi was likely the only person in the whole army who had no such hopes. Yeah, I feel like he'd have trouble trusting again, after thinking. After feeling he was betrayed by someone that he thought of as a friend, a companion. boyfriend, comrade, whatever. His parents were dead. Oh. This life sucks. And he had he had no wives. The entire capital of Chonghua longed for his return, but in a city ablaze with lights, not a single lamp was lit for him alone. Bad, actually, with that description. Thus, Moshi's manner was as aloof as ever, his pale lips pursed beneath the handsome, defined nose. Even though the battle fires of the past few years had gone out, their dying embers remained in his dark eyes. This made him seem all the more ruthless and repressed, as if he'd walked right out of a snowy night. As if what constricted him wasn't his armored silver belt or his leather military boots, but rather rule and regulation. He never relaxes, does he? Jiejun, once we get back to the city, you can see Princess Mengshi again. Yu Chengqing had finished bathing and was walking up the riverbank. When he saw Moshi, he beamed. You know what they say about distance making the heart grow. If you want me to kick you back into the river, go ahead and keep talking. Yu Chengqing shut up and gave Moshi a reverential bow. General Mo, I get the feeling you'll attain enlightenment in this lifetime. He's being all nice now. Ignoring him, Moshe stood on the riverbank and gazed at the distant mountains. He knew that just beyond these peaks lay Chonghua's imperial capital, which he had not seen in a long time. After a year of battles and another 2 guarding the frontier, he had spent 1,000 days and nights away from home. It was true that he didn't know how Princess Mengshi was doing, and as for Gu Meng, Moshe's eyes darkened. Oh, also, hold on. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I know I read that it basically was saying, in the blink of an eye, the Northern Frontier Army had spent 2 years guarding the border, meaning there was a 2-year time skip, but for some reason my brain didn't connect that with the time skip. So, yeah. Like I said, I'm a little slow. Sometimes. Maybe a lot of the time. But anyway, 2 years ago, Gumong had been sent back to the capital as a gift from the Lao Kingdom. Proceeding peace talks. Somehow, he had kicked up a huge ruckus as soon as he arrived. After the city gates opened and the procession came in, what we saw of the renowned General Gu left us totally speechless. It was really something. I'll never forget that sight. Moshe still wasn't clear as what they had seen, although he had certainly heard tell of the situation where he had been stationed. It had been all fragments, snippets of passing conversation. Besides, the soldiers revered him to the point that the talkative ones shut up as soon as he appeared and greeted him with utmost propriety, performing obeisance and addressing him as General Mo. I don't have anyone he can talk to, anyone he's close to, because it kind of feels, he sounds like a workaholic basically, and that all he focuses on this. His life just sounds really depressing at this point. Feel for him. Moshi couldn't say anything to that. He could only nod, stand there for a moment, and coolly walk away. Naturally, when he returned to his tent, what awaited him would be a sleepless night of melancholy, staring at the tent poles as they swayed noisily in the wind. Yu Chenqing had mumbled some things within earshot a few times, but what he said couldn't be trusted, since his stories changed with each telling. Moshe was very reserved and would never have asked of his own violation, so even now he didn't know what exactly had become of Gumong. He only knew that Gumong was alive. That was enough. He cares a little. Enough. Everyone said Gumong was Moshi's archenemy. There was a rumor in Chonghua that went as follows. The traitor Gumong were to be defeated someday. The best end for him would be to take a sword to his neck, because at least that mean he'd die quickly. Second best would be to capture and brought back to Chonghua, because at least then he'd die successfully. The worst possible conclusion for him would be to end up in Moshi's hands in the thick of battle, because that was an end that did not bear imagining. It was said that Moshi had prepared 365 methods of torture. That would take too much time and energy for me to eat. If I was him, that would take too much time and energy to think of methods like that I don't want to be spending on. Jesus. Also, that'd be a little creepy if someone knew that many flippin' torturing ways, or whatever. But I guess if you hate someone enough, although I don't think Moshi hates him that much for some, it's just the way, yeah. Such that he could try a new one on Gumong every day for an entire year. These would ensure that Gumong suffered a life worse than the death he would be denied. Yu Chengqing had smilingly told this rumor to Shihe Jun himself, hoping to get a laugh. I don't know why you expected a laugh, because all I've been told is that basically the impression I get of Moshe, poker face, cold and distant and rigid, keeps to himself, so I don't really see him being open and like smiling, laughing at that. To his surprise, Moshe didn't find it the least bit funny. Instead, he closed his eyes for a moment, then scoffed. Think I would treat him like that? It was a joke. But Moshe entirely ignored Yu Chengqing's explanation. He'd been jabbed where it hurt, and that tent, empty of outsiders, in that overflowing madness of obsession, he raged. Don't be foolish. He chose this end, but now he's saying I forced him to it, that I'd take it out on him, that I would make him live a life worse than death. Moshe's eyes flashed red as he snapped. Which one of us has been made to suffer a life worse than death? Doesn't he know? A lot of repressed anger showing up. Yu Chengqing was rendered speechless, and he vowed not to mention it again. It looked, for some reason I have a feeling he's going to make another mistake, considering he's making mistakes towards Moshe. He's very smart. He's very smart. It looked like he had been right. Jie-jun had been betrayed by his best friend. So even though he still appeared cool and collected from within, he had been driven to the edge. One more step and he'd lose his mind. It was true that Moshe despised Gumong. So much so that he had wanted to personally tear open his ribcage and see for himself whether Gumong's blood was cold, whether his heart was black. Truly couldn't say if he felt something else as well, separate from that bone-deep hatred. He'd known Gumong for half his life. Far too much had happened in that time. Gumong was once a slave. He wasn't cruel by nature. He was only too focused on making a name for himself, and too blindly devoted to upholding the code of brotherhood. Unfortunately, the entirety of the 9 provinces valued bloodline above all else. Even though the old emperor had taken pity on Gumong on account of his talents and made an exception to grant him the rank of general, after that emperor passed, his successor hadn't looked kindly upon the low-born Gumong. He grew jealous of Gumong, doubted him, and stripped him of his authority. Even crossed a line Gumong couldn't possibly endure. Moshi had watched Gumong fall into the abyss with his own eyes. Moshi tried to persuade Gumong as a close friend, then argued with Gumong as a comrade. They were both assigned the bureau of military affairs at the time. Gumong was in low spirits and rarely came to work. Once, when Moshi found him, he was listening to music and drinking wine in a brothel, his head pillowed on a dancer's soft thighs. At the sight of Moshi, he closed those eyes that flickered with stars and flashed him a mirthless smile. Hyejun, come. I'm actually curious what that new emperor did to Gumong that crossed a line. It kind of makes me suspicious of what happened to him in those 2 years of him being captured. Well, no. There was someone else that had complete control over him that he was under, right? I don't know. Nearly insane with fury, Moshe threw open the door and strode into the room. Amid astonished cries, he slapped Gumong across the face. Damn. Do you want to rot like this for the rest of your fucking life? Gumong was drunk. He grinned as he looped his arms around Moshe's neck and crooned. Yes, noble Mongongshi. Like to rot with me? Fuck off. Gumong burst into laughter. It doesn't matter. After all, you're a noble slave. I know you think I'm filth. I know that no matter how hard my army strives, how much blood is spilled, or how many of us die, still meaningless in His Imperial Majesty's eyes. It's our fault that we weren't worthy of learning cultivation in the first place. Somehow, despite our birth, we still dared to try. After that, the Emperor had dispatched Gumong from the capital, but Gumong never returned to report on his mission. People thought he must have died in some accident. Many of his maiden admirers even cried for him. For a long time, no news of his death reached Changhua until one day, a military report came swift from the front lines saying Gumong had been seen in the Lao Kingdom battle formation. Gumong had defected. The scandal burned through Changhua like wildfire, setting everyone's temper ablaze. Only Moshi's heart seemed to freeze over. He hadn't believed it. Not until he saw it for himself, over the misty waters of Dongqing Lake, where ships and water demons clashed to kill. The Lao Kingdom's tactics felt so familiar that they shattered Moshi's composure. He had seen these monstrously fearless strategies countless times before, on the sand tables Gumong had once pored over, and during every one of the Wangba's army's glorious battles. Moshe told the commander in charge of the attack that they needed to call the barrier masters and switch to defensive tactics. They had to commit to total retreat and discontinue the fight. If they didn't, the whole vanguard would be buried at the bottom of the lake by the end of the day. I know how he fights. The commander ignored him. Who does Gumong think he is? Could a slave-born brat defeat a pure-blooded descendant of the gods such as I? Really full of himself, huh? The grizzled, white-bearded noble's expression was full of arrogance. He didn't think much of Gumong at all. Underestimating is not smart. So the fire of war blazed without end. The imperial army that had withered 100 battles unscathed under Gumong suffered their first complete and utter defeat for the Lao Kingdom's warships. Boats powered by spiritual energy exploded one after another, while water demons burst out of the lake to tear cultivators apart. Fire stained the sky. Blood dyed the water. Amid the wails of crushing defeat, Moshe mounted a sword by himself and flew to the Lao Kingdom command ship. The inferno raged on, black smoke spiraling endlessly upward. Lao Kingdom was a country that cultivated demonic magic, and the spells their cultivators used were savage and cruel. A crowd of hundreds struck forward to kill Moshe. Hold it! A familiar voice called out, and a figure sauntered out from the dark cabin. They met again. Gumong had grown more tanned, and his physique was more toned. But those eyes of his hadn't changed. Black and bright as if they could see through all the world's machinations. It's almost like imaginations, but machinations? I don't know. Gotta look that word up. His torso was bare, slim and well-muscled waist bound with layers of bandages, and he wore a black coat draped over his shoulders, a blood-stained ribbon tied around his forehead. He had pulled it off the dead body of an imperial soldier of Okay. Gumong leaned carelessly against the ship railing, narrowing his eyes as he looked ahead at Moshe. Then he grinned. Jiejun. Been a long time. The wind blew in coppery gusts. The war reports provided by scouts and the strategy at play in the Battle of Dongting Lake both suggested that the Lao Kingdom newest general was none other than Chonghua's former beast of the altar. Although Moshe hadn't said anything, he had still refused to believe it. He thought, surely, Gumong couldn't be so awful. Despite all that happened, the Lao Kingdom was evil, a deeply cruel nation that revered only war. Gumong might have left Chonghua, but no matter what, he wouldn't have gone to Lao Kingdom territory. Moshe thought that a person's nature never changed, so he refused to believe anything before he saw the man himself. But now, Moshe closed his eyes, swallowing thickly. After a long time, he only managed 2 words. Gumong. Moshe's voice was low, on the verge of shaking. So you really stooped so low. Gumong laughed. In the blazing firelight, the wisps of his black hair that framed his face fluttering slightly, he spread his hands with an almost flamboyant air. What's wrong with this? Moshe said nothing. I think it's great. The Lao Kingdom values talent. Although it's not righteous to cultivate with black magic, everyone's treated quite fairly. As Gumong spoke, he pointed at the gold-edged blue ribbon on his forehead. No matter how much of my life I devoted to your honorable country, no matter how many merits I achieved, I could never dream of attaining this kind of pure-blooded noble's ribbon, all on account of my birth. Gumong smiled, but that's not true in Lao. That's the merit ribbon. Moshi snarled. It belongs solely to the descendants of the martyred heroes. Take it off. Gumong touched the blood-stained ribbon with interest. Is it? This was worn by a cultivator who looked pretty young. I cut off his head and saw this ribbon was quite well made. Be a waste on a corpse, so I took it for fun. What? Do you want one too? His lips curled in a malicious smile. You have one of your own. You're trying to take mine. Oh. Okay. Oh. I need to know what happened to the point that he basically left Lao Kingdom. If that's what. To up to this. Cause there. Okay. I mean, I know it seemed like he was depressed. I know that could like affect their mood and kind of like change someone in a way, not completely of course, but like in a way of their views and stuff, kind of. Like I said, in a way. But like this isn't actually him, right? I still refuse to believe that he decided to actually do this. I mean, we'll learn. We'll learn. I'm not even that far in the book to actually know his character well to even say he isn't the type to do this or all that kind of stuff. So I need to stop with that. We'll learn. Jia-jun. Oh wait, no. Moshi was practically incandescent with rage. Take it off! Jia-jun. Gumong's voice was syrupy sweet, but his tone was laced with danger. You're alone and surrounded. So where are your manners? Really think I wouldn't have the heart to kill you just because of our shared past? A black dagger, wreathed in dark mist, appeared in his hand. Almost all of the men of your honored nation's vanguard have died at Dongqing Lake today. Gumong said. Moshi, even if you're strong, you're still only a deputy general. You can persuade that dumbass old noble commander of yours. Even after so many died, he didn't come here to beg for mercy, while you've come to endanger yourself. Gumong smiled at him. Is it because you want to be buried with the descendant soldiers of Changhua? Moshi didn't answer. After a moment of silence, he walked toward Gumong. His military boots left tracks through the fresh blood on the deck. Gumong, he finally said, I know that Changhua owes you, as do I. You've done too much for me, so I won't fight you today. I'd like to see you try, Gumong scoffed. You asked if I wanted to be buried with the soldiers of Changhua who died today. My death will convince you to leave the Lao Kingdom, Moshi said, stepping closer. Then yes, my life is yours. Oh. Gumong wasn't smiling anymore. He stared, eyes dark. I really will kill you. I really feel like he won't. Try. Oh. spoke too soon. Moshi was yet unfazed. He merely glanced at Gumong's forehead and the blood-stained blue and gold ribbon. Slowly, he lowered his gaze to Gumong's face. Then kill me. And afterward, remember to turn back. This was the last time Moshi tried to bring Gumong back to shore. A white eagle swooped off the ship's mast, and light flashed from the dagger. There came a muffled, ripping sound. Blood gushed from the wound in spurts. The cold blade had stabbed into Moshi's heart, viciously tearing it apart. Did say I would kill you. Dagger was still buried in Moshi's chest. Gumong suddenly sneered. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to lecture me? You think that if you die, I'll feel guilty and turn back? Don't be a fool. Head held high, he glanced disdainfully down and sighed. As a general, as a soldier, and as a person, you can't be too attached to past affections. As he spoke, he slowly got down on one knee, resting an elbow carelessly on his raised leg as he took hold of the dripping dagger and pulled it out with a squelch. Fresh blood splattered out. Gumong tilted Moshi's chin with the tip of his bloody dagger. Don't think I didn't know what you were planning, Jae-jun. You weren't actually reluctant to fight me. Knew you had no chance of victory, so you chose to bet on my conscience with your life. Blood gradually soaked through Moshi's clothes, but at that moment he didn't feel any pain, only cold. And here's the art. I am feeling so bad for Moshi. What is with that crazy smile and look in Gumong's eye? But obviously, Moshi didn't die. So I'm wondering how he survived. So cold. He closed his eyes. No. If I had the choice, I would never have even thought of fighting you. Light was something you gave me. Warmth was something you brought me. All the blood that races through my heart was of you. Without you, I wouldn't have made it to today. Sorry to disappoint, Gumong said blandly. Moshi, if I were you, and I ended up in your situation, I'd prefer to bet on my ability to bring my enemy down with me, rather than I'd prefer to bet on my ability to bring my enemy down with me, rather than naively try to persuade my opponent to turn back. We were brothers once. This is the last thing I can teach you. The final scene Moshi remembered before losing consciousness was a Lao Kingdom cultivator swooping in on a sword to say anxiously, General Gu, reinforcements are coming from the northeast. An army of Mengji's healers. Look. Moshi didn't hear the rest of it. Unable to hold on any longer, he fell forward and collapsed onto the blood-stained deck. After this bloody battle, Donghua confirmed that the traitorous General Gumong had defected to the Lao Kingdom and was serving the darkest country in the 9 provinces. The old general had made a grave mistake. The army was devastated. Of a vanguard that had been 10,000 strong, fewer than 100 cultivators returned. Moshi lay unconscious. For weeks before waking, Gumong had slipped a knife between his ribs, but it hadn't been enough to make him stop and turn back. He remembered the words Gumong had said long ago before he left the capital. Moshi, for me, the way up is a dead end. I have nowhere to go. can only fumble toward hell. Gumong, that's enough. Gumong ordered a jug of wine from the waiter. Breaking the clay seal, he smiled as he poured 2 cups, one for himself, one for Moshi. Gumong's eyes twinkled as the cups clinked, sending wine splashing. Have another drink on me. From now on, your Gumong Gege is going to be a bad guy. He warned him beforehand? He warned him beforehand? That's just convincing me more that, that maybe, or maybe it's me being delusional, that, he was probably forced into doing this. That's my thing. That's my thought, anyway. And, the fact that he slipped a knife between his ribs, but it hadn't been enough to make him stop and turn back, makes me feel like he purposely did that so Moshi wouldn't die. That he knew where he was stabbing him, maybe. Or like I said, maybe I'm delusional. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, at the time, Moshe had shaken his head in exasperation, finding him unbearably flippant. Every word out of his mouth sounded so tongue-in-cheek. Moshe had known Gumong for many, many years. His heart was so soft that he hesitated to stomp on an ant. How could a sweet child like that become a bad guy? And what happened in the end? Subordinates of the sweet child had killed Moshe's comrades. That sweet child himself had almost killed Moshe. Fortunately, Princess Mengshi arrived in time to save you. Oh. Okay. Back to know. That's who that princess is. The dagger was a holy weapon from the Lao Kingdom, tempered with demonic poison. If she had come any later, I'm afraid you would have died. Your wound will scar, and you'll need to spend the next few months resting. Moshe didn't listen to anything else the healer said. He looked down at the bandages wrapped around his chest. The necrosis had been cut away, but something else seemed to have been gouged out of his heart, alongside the dead flesh. He felt empty and hurt, satisfied and hateful. It wasn't until much later, when Gumong suffered the consequences of his actions and was sent back to his old capital, that Moshe felt the wound on his chest finally stop bleeding. But it still ached. Many years later, the night before the Northern Frontier Army returned to the capital, Moshe sat alone and sleepless in his tent, unconsciously wiping slightly damp eyes. He turned his face to the side, faint candlelight streaming through the Muslim lampshade to illuminate his sharply defined profile. He closed his eyes. Without a doubt, he was a loyal subject, and Gumong was a traitor. Moshe loathed him, and knew he was guilty, but between his trembling lashes, Moshe seemed to see Gumong from the past, when they were both at the academy, smiling face, both sweet and mischievous. When he was happy, sharp little canine would appear, and his eyes would glitter brighter than any star Moshe had ever seen. Back then, the sun shone splendidly, and the elders droned on, while Gumong sprawled out over the desk, sneakily writing picture books, starring himself as the male lead. Smug and delighted, because all the young ladies loved him. Neither of them had foreseen a future like this. And that is the end of chapter 3 at page 50. And this is where I'm ending today. When we start back up, we'll be on chapter 4, which is called Moshi Puts on an Act. Does that... Ooh, my imagination's going wild. Does that mean he will actually get to see both of them interact? Actually see each other? You know, maybe, actually get some insight on, Umong's point of view? I really want to know. But anyway, really interesting start. I really love how she's very descriptive. Meatbun's writing, I mean. She kind of catches me off guard on some things too. God. I think I'll like the series. Wow. And, if anyone watches my videos, if anyone at all, if you enjoyed this video or not, or whatever, if you have any thoughts, comments, let me know. I would like to see your views on the video or the book, either one, so I can better improve what I'm doing. And I also hope that you enjoyed this video. If not, that's okay. Everyone has their own thing that they like. And, well, if you like anything you see on the screen right here, like the background with the sakura trees and the little books and the desk, or my VTuber model, or my book, and like the thing that I use when I do breaks and all, and you want to go check those out, I'll have the link in the description so you can go find those. And I'll put the trigger warnings in the description. And be careful to try not to like spoil myself on what happens. I want to be completely like surprised. I'm not really put off easily, really. Or at least I haven't read anything that puts me off yet, I guess. But, I'll also have the book, the link to the book in the description if you want to go check out the physical copy of the book and buy it for yourself, which I totally recommend. It'll be in the description as well. Sorry for the long, end part of this whole thing. But, yeah, I'm having a lot of fun reading this so far. 8 volumes. It's gonna take me a while, but I'm all for it. I think I'll enjoy the whole series. I did hear it's very sad and like a lot of depressing things happen. So I guess I should get ready for an emotional roller coaster. Anyway, I should probably let you guys get going. And I hope you have a great day. See you next time.